gang. It's Will from Tested.
And it's Norm from Tested.
Norman Chan, it's Windows 10 Day.
Happy Windows 10 Day.
We've all got it. It's free. It's there.
Or is it?
Or is it? Should be out by now. We don't know. We recorded this last week. But Windows 10 is done.
Yes.
You can get, well, actually, or I guess another way to think about it is that Windows 10 is never going to be done.
Ooh. But it's released.
It's released. You can download it. It's final. They've been doing beta testing since like last October.
Yeah.
So this should be the best tested version of Windows. And the promise is something near, as a Windows user, near and dear to me. The combination of Windows 7's excellent desktop, good performance, lightweight, all that stuff, and then the tablet-friendly, touch-friendly stuff that they introduced in Windows 8, kind of at the expense of the traditional desktop user. It's now all unified.
Best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds.
That's the hope.
That's the promise. That's what they're claiming.
So right now, the build we're using is part of the Insiders programs. The latest update one we can get.
Update for the pre-release Insiders program.
Build 10.240.
10.240, I believe, is what this one is. If you load up the screen, it's a new enough build. It doesn't have usually there's a little date at the lower right-hand corner here.
Look at that wallpaper.
That says this was released on this date, and here you go. None of that. I think this is still the Insider wallpaper, though.
So the Insider program is something new. In the past, Windows 7, there's a beta. That was announced at CES. Insider is more of like a active beta. Lots of updates, engaged users, tons of feedback.
Lots of tools that you can use to give feedback back. In fact, actually, it would prompt you and say, if you hadn't given feedback in a while, it would prompt you on the login screen and say, hey, we can't make this better if you don't help. It's kind of a combination of the old beta programs and TechNet, which used to be something that like IT folks would pay a certain amount of money to every year in order to get access to everything that Microsoft makes. They've gotten rid of TechNet, so this is closer to the TechNet betas than the public betas were.
And tons of telemetry.
Tons of telemetry.
UI telemetry, everything. If you're in the Insider program, what you're doing in the early versions of Windows 10 was all sent back to Microsoft. They know how much of a certain part of the UI you use, where the mouse is going, and that's to inform, and that has informed how they have designed Windows 10 a bit.
Yeah, so the TLDR in Windows 10, I've been using it off and on for about 6 months, and then really, really hard for the last week, let's say. It's good. Like, they've fixed a lot of the problems. Obviously, the total coverage of different hardware in the Windows ecosystem is infinite, basically. So, your particular system may have problems. On the 2 laptops that I've tested it on, it's been really, really phenomenal and seems at least as fast and faster in some stuff than Windows 8. Plus, they've added a bunch of new features that are actually quite good this time, as opposed to a kind of a detriment on the last round. So you're coming
to it from a Windows 8.1 perspective.
Yes.
Neither of us were stayed on the Windows 7 for forever. A lot of people out there
used Windows 7 really hard for the 3 years that Windows 7 was the OS to use.
But we made the upgrade to Windows 8, the upgrade, and now we're on Windows 10 now. A lot of people are still on Windows 7, and I think those are the people Microsoft really want to convert over to Windows 10.
So the first thing to get out of the way is the price. It's really good if you have a legal copy of Windows 7 or Windows 8. It's free. You have been harassed for the last 2 or 3 months with a little thing in your system tray that says, hey, do you want to get Windows 10? Just click here and reserve your place. They're going to roll out those upgrades based on the hardware in your system. So they're being really smart about it. They're looking at the hardware in your system. They're comparing it to known good hardware from the Insider program. And they're bringing you online as the drivers for your hardware become available for Windows 10.
And Microsoft has refused to say how long this will take, how long it will take to update. But they can ramp it up. They can flip a switch and say, updates are going smoothly, the driver system is going well, so we're just going to send it to more people, but it's not first come, first serve. It is purely based on compatibility.
And if you don't have Windows 10 today, if you don't have the option to upgrade today, it's okay. Like, upgrading on the first day something's released, not always a great idea. So
can you roll back?
Hang back, wait. If it doesn't go well for you, you can roll back, assuming it doesn't go catastrophically bad. But they were very, very clear on that. Look, this isn't a permanent thing. If you install it and don't like it or have problems, you should be able to roll back to Windows 8 or Windows 7.
And when we say free, that's not to say that OEMs don't have to pay for it. Microsoft will still sell a copy of Windows 10 if you want to buy it on a USB key from them directly. You don't want to do an upgrade path. As of right now, I don't know for people who, for example, have pirated copies of Windows 10, how that will work for them, whether they'll get a key. They've been offered updates, but no support.
So it seems like they're going to have to buy a key. They're going to keep getting security updates if they install Windows 10. They'll get the option to do the upgrade to Windows 10, but they won't have a legally, like an activated version. Now, there's an interesting loophole. They're going to continue the Insider program going forward. And if you sign up for the Insider program and don't have a legal copy, you'll have a legal copy by participating in the Insider program. So you're trading your telemetry and your time for access to the new version of Windows legally, which I think seems pretty fair.
All right, so now talking about Windows, let's show people Windows 10. Get back to that desktop and start with the UI. You said it's the best of both worlds. Let's see what the best of both worlds means.
So I'm running this on an HP Spectre, which is a convertible 2-in-1 laptop. Means it has a touchscreen, a keyboard, and a trackpad all set in. It looks like a normal laptop for the most part, but you can use your fingers to track around. This is the desktop. It looks like the desktop. This is what you boot into when you boot up from Windows from start into a Windows 10 desktop if you have a computer with a keyboard and mouse attached.
Yep.
Now the interesting thing is it changes behaviors when you're in tablet mode or desktop mode, and we'll talk about that stuff in a little bit. But here's the big one. Oops. Start menu. It's back, guys.
Start menu's back.
So you know the thing that's changed. I'm going to go ahead and use the mouse for this because it's a little bit easier. You can stretch this guy out, make it smaller or bigger. I don't have many of these live tiles because I don't use that part of Windows very much. But the thing that I really missed with Windows 8 is back, which means you have the Start menu. You have access to the 3 most commonly used things in Windows: the File Explorer, the Settings app, and the Power button. And then you also have most used and the recently added stuff. And you can drill down into this and see a little bit more. So it'll give you a little bit more detail, and you can see, okay, here are the most recently added, and then here's my alphabetical list of applications, just like always. Like, that's really good.
It really is a hybrid. If you look at it, the left side is what's essentially the Windows 7 start menu. If you click that again, and the most used is the biggest part of Windows 7.
This is the thing that was missing from Windows 8 and 8.1.
Yep.
It's the thing that I didn't realize I used all the time until it was gone.
And if you are a Windows 8 user and you don't have that most used because you didn't have Windows 7, it will actually automatically populate with your most used Windows 8 program.
Windows was tracking it even if it wasn't using it anywhere.
And then on the right side, it is the live tiles. Microsoft has a metric, they call it mouse mileage. They want you to get quickest access to the things you want to use without having to flick your wrist around too much. And I think on a touchscreen, you're tapping these keys, the big icons, live tiles, no problem, but it really needed to have like the File Explorer, the settings, and the power on that bottom left-hand corner, which is back.
That's exactly right.
Now you can't change the colors of the background of those icons, can you?
Now, what's interesting is it changes based on the color of your wallpaper. So if I go here and go to personalize and change to, let's say,
that one.
Yeah, ready black one, then see the highlight color changes from blue to green.
Oh, it's a theme.
So it does this automatically. I think you can probably change this to not do this automatically. I find it a little bit disconcerting. So here we go. Theme settings is where I would guess this would be. And yeah, so
just change the background.
Yeah, it changes the background and matches the primary color.
Now, what I would want is individual colors. If you go back to the Start menu and you look at your favorite stuff, like Google Chrome, yes, the icon of Chrome is its own color. But I want to be able to customize that blue and the colors for each of those. And you can't do that yet.
I don't think they're ever going to let you do that. I think they want to have a common visual language. Yeah, I find it really weird because stuff like OneNote and Xbox and even the News app, for no apparent reason, have different color backgrounds. So they let you specify that when you're setting up the app. That just seems like if you don't specify, you use the default color.
So obviously you have your Chrome and your browser and your traditional x86 apps. What happens when you open something like that News app or the
like
Photos
Mail?
app? Anything that's a modern, quote unquote, modern style application.
A couple of other things about the Start menu. File Explorer, we'll talk about Cortana a little bit. File Explorer is one of the things that those analytics that they said that they track, people use more frequently than anything else. They got rid of all the garbage shortcuts to like music and pictures and all that stuff you turned off immediately. That's all gone. I think you can drill out to it if you want. But it goes to your pinned places and your most frequently used places by default, which is incredibly useful. It takes you straight to the thing that you normally have to click and open File Explorer and then go over to your favorites menu on the left.
And get pins on things like Google Chrome and Steam as well.
Yeah, you can pin anything. You can pin stuff. I'm going to push and hold. You can pin it to the taskbar. You can pin it to the Start menu. Start menu seems like a good place to have Chrome. and then it falls out of the most used. So the most used is basically the most used stuff that you don't have pinned, is what it seems like.
To the taskbar.
Yeah, to the taskbar or to the start menu. Let's talk about the right-click menu. This was one of my favorite things that they added in Windows 8, and it was a last-minute add to solve the, hey, where do our start menu go problem. This is incredibly useful. It has all of like the power user stuff that you use all the time, like device manager and computer management, command prompt with an admin login, all that. It's all accessible right here just by right-clicking on the start menu. So that didn't go away, which I thought was quite nice. Do you want to talk about control panel for a little bit? Or do you want to go back to...
I want to open up a Metro app.
You want to open up a Metro app. Okay, so I'm going to type mail. I can just do that. I can just do that by pressing the Windows key and typing the name of the application.
Windows
like
with
before.
Windows.
Yeah, so this is a Metro app. You can make it full screen by dragging it up to the top. If you're in tablet mode, I'll show you that. So you swipe in from the right side of the screen, and all that charm stuff is gone now.
Fantastic.
They've replaced it with notifications and like the 8 buttons or 12 buttons that you need most frequently.
It's called the Action Center.
Oh, they call it the Actions. Oh, you're right. It's at the top. So you can scroll through your notifications. You know, I got messages from Twitter. This stuff seems to be tied mostly to Metro apps. I haven't seen any non-Metro apps, but I haven't put a ton of non-Metro apps on here yet. You can turn off Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, all the stuff that you need to flip on and off on a laptop regularly. If you don't have buttons for brightness on your laptop, you can change that here and cycle through some different laptop brightnesses. But the tablet mode switch is what we're going to talk about right now. So this, you'll notice, when we went into tablet mode, the top bar went away. The title bar at the top of the screen went away. The start menu remained more or less the same, but that's a user configurable option. So, for example, we're going to turn off, I don't remember how to get to it from here. Right, the taskbar you can turn off. You can, right now it's in a simplified mode. If we switch back, you'll see. So like the Cortana prompt went away, the buttons got a little bit smaller. When you go back, they'll get bigger again, and it gets a little easier to click on them. You can have a taskbar that gets rid of the running applications entirely, so it behaves more like an iPad or a traditional Android tablet. I find that this is a nice medium. Getting rid of the title bar, all this stuff is configurable. Getting rid of the title bar, but leaving the taskbar made it more like a real computer when I'm using it in tablet mode.
And this tablet mode, while right now you're activating it by tapping that icon, it will, on convertibles, automatically switch back and forth or give you a prompt when you remove a keyboard or flip a keyboard all the way around for some of those convertibles. Yeah,
so when you flip this, it's usually based on the hinge, or in the Surface's case, when the keyboard's plugged in. And you can set it to always switch, never switch, don't ask me, don't switch, don't ask me, and always switch. It basically gives you everything you need, and you can also change whether you go to tablet, desktop, or whatever was last.
Now, can you move the taskbar to the left or right side of the screen on like a 16:9 tablet?
I don't know.
Change that orientation.
Let me switch out of tablet mode right now, because I bet that's a not tablet mode thing. Lock the taskbar. Yeah.
There you go.
So you can get crazy if you want.
I like it. What happens if you put it on the left side and then open the start menu?
It's going to come out of the top.
That looks good. I like that.
That is not bad.
Yeah. Change the way you use Windows. Actually,
that looks like a life hack right there.
Yep.
You can also do things. Let's see. Where's my taskbar setting?
Now you're in Control Panel right now.
This is the Control Panel.
As you navigate it, I'm going to explain. Control Panel in Windows 8 was a real source of consternation because they are the two separate control panels. A kind of traditional Windows 7 based control panel that gave you access to things like all these detailed settings, and then a modern app style full screen control panel that omitted or duplicated a lot of that functionality. Now it's all in one place. Still looks a little redesigned with bigger icons than the old school control panel, but you actually have access to everything now.
And you can search. So I want to find out about taskbar settings. Let's see, here we go. So yeah, so I can go here and change my tablet mode settings. So when I go back into tablet mode, all of the running apps move and you just have a full screen experience.
Yep.
So if I want to alt-tab or multitask, whatever, I have to use the task switcher by swiping in from the left side of the trackpad or the home button, or using alt-tab.
You're casually doing things now also that people who were on Windows 7 might not notice, such as the split screens snapping.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite features of Windows 8. This is, like, if we want to get down to it, the reasons I kept using Windows 8, even though I didn't like the start menu metaphor and and some of the other stuff that they did is the snapping. So, for example, I'm going to drag the window to the edge here, and it just automatically snaps on the left side. You can do that with quarter windows too. It's less. Just use the mouse. It's less effective with this size screen than it is on, say, a 30-inch panel or a great big widescreen. But you can do up to 4 corners now. Halves, corners, or full window.
Much better than that old 240 pixel 1/3 screen thing that was happening in Windows RT.
Yeah, and yes, that's a good point. When you add things like mail, then you can do. You have much more room to wiggle. So the mail thing will slide from full screen to something that's more akin to a phone to just a kind of phone type view.
It's responsive.
It is very responsive, and these work the way I would expect them to work. Once we got these modern apps into Windows, they're into running in Windows. They're much more useful and have way fewer of the problems than we had before.
And it being responsive this way actually helps it being work in the Windows continuum, which is something they're calling a single app that works across multiple platforms.
Yes.
Because just like a web page where if you resize a browser window, they'll give you single columns or multiple columns and show the navigation bar. Applications will also do that now. So if you run Mail on your Windows Phone, for example, it will just show that single column versus a tablet versus a bigger screen.
Right. Okay, so then the other thing they did in the desktop side is the addition of multiple desktops. They've had this for a while, but it's much better supported now, and it seems to work a little bit better.
Yeah. Oh, alt tabbing.
This is Windows tabbing.
Windows tabbing. So alt tabbing also changed a little bit.
Yeah. So when alt tabbing is just the same as before. You get a nice big preview of what the window is, which is good.
Okay.
Windows key tabbing.
Now, in Windows 7, this is a weird way to show that arrow style stacking, 3D stacking of your applications.
It's mostly useless.
Mostly useless.
This gives you an expose type functionality, which is something that I've wanted on Windows for a really long time.
Yeah, you need a third-party program to get it before.
Exactly. And you can go over here and drag these to different desktops. So then I think it's Windows key left and Windows key right, or Shift Windows key left. Maybe it's Control, Alt. Well, anyway.
There are shortcut keys to switch between your windows.
You can drag to the edges.
Your virtual desktops.
And get into the different virtual desktops. Or you can just Windows key tab and click. There is a keyboard shortcut. I don't remember what it is.
If you open multiple windows in here, is there parity with Mac virtual desktops, which I use a lot on a laptop? For example, open another
so this is a second
here.
Chrome instance.
Can you Windows tab?
Okay.
And then drag applications, drag from one to another virtual desktop?
So I'm not seeing all of the open applications. I just see the ones that are on that desktop, the one that I'm on.
Mm-hmm. But can you drag that to the other virtual desktop?
Yeah, of course. So this is on the first desktop, and now I can drag, there we go.
There you go.
And I can drag it to the second one, and now there will be 2 instances of Chrome on that desktop. It's pretty good, and I think even when you close it doesn't get rid of the desktop, but you can close it and kill it easily. It's the kind of thing that if you use, people who use virtual desktops well tend to use one for work and one for fucking around, or one for graphics work and one for web browsing and one for writing, and
it's how I compartmentalize my productivity.
It's like partitions for your brain.
Yep.
So I think that's really good. They also have adjusted so it's smarter about how it handles multi-monitor stuff. We obviously can't show that right now, and I haven't been able to test that, but the demos that they showed of that looked really promising. Okay, so we talked about notification area, the shortcuts.
The Action Center.
The Action Center.
Which you can swipe in from the side of your trackpad also.
So let's talk about the trackpad thing. A lot of the new features that have to do with the trackpad require this thing called a precision trackpad driver. On this particular computer, which is, again, an HP Spectre, you don't have the appropriate driver. They're using the Synaptics SM Bus touchpad driver, which is the Synaptics basically gives you 2 options. Oh, wow, this is the old control panel. I didn't realize you could still get to this. So that was just right-clicking on the desktop. That's interesting. If you swipe in over here, you go to settings. It seems like all the stuff that you need is in the modern settings app now, just for what it's worth. When you go over to the mouse and keyboard, I can go to the mouse and touchpad. If you have a precision touchpad driver, like on the Surface Pro 3, then you get a whole bunch of settings here that have to do with the gestures that are now built into Windows. Yeah. Because I'm using the Synaptics driver on this thing, and I haven't been able to figure out how to change it, you have to go through and manually set up all of the stuff that you used to, and it doesn't quite have parity. So I can swipe in from the side and trigger Cortana, but I can swipe in from the other side and trigger the Alt tabbing. Mm-hmm. I thought I could. There we go.
There you go.
But like it's unpredictable what works and what doesn't.
I'm just so glad they made Alt-Tab the default swipe in from the left.
It's not actually the Alt-Tab, it's the Windows tab, but yeah.
Yes, as
Is it
opposed
two
to
fingers? One finger.
that column of the list of your recent applications.
Yes, this is a much more useful view, especially like when you're on a desktop and you have 25 windows open and you want to be able to see what you have open. Like these big thumbnails are really useful and good.
It's what I use in the Surface Pro all the time. All right, so we've alluded to it for a long time now, but search and Cortana.
Yeah.
One and the same.
Yeah, so, in the old days, you could press the Windows key and type, Chrome, and it would launch, and press enter, and it'll launch your Chrome app. This is the baseline for search. You can also do file search for files on the local machine. But the new thing is that they've added a Siri or Google Now style assistant. They call it Cortana. She's the Halo guy's assistant in Halo video games. And you
Halo
can
guy.
Master Chief. I know who he is. His name's John. Okay, he has a name, Norm. But you can say, "Hey Cortana. Hey Cortana. What do you think the Giants' chance of making the World Series is this year?" And it'll go to a Google result.
So it has information about you. If you want to get a result like about your calendar or your mail, can it do that?
Yeah, so it has a Google Now style list of all the things that it thinks you're interested in. I've just been using this Cortana on this machine for a couple of days. It keeps a lot of stuff local versus the cloud, which I know.
So it also builds in Google.
People feel good about it.
Their Google Now basic functionality.
Yeah. So it's looking at like the TS podcast is the tested podcast appointment that's standing for tomorrow at 11 o'clock. After that, it knows that I like the Giants because I've searched for Giants and I have Giants tickets in my mail. It's looking at the mail on your local machine, it seems like. So it goes into the mail app and can see when I have things like trips coming up or packages that have been shipped and know when that stuff is coming.
And these are cards. Like you can see the delineation between the information. They're the cards, and you click the three dots on the top corner of the card.
That lets me control the settings, I believe.
Yep.
So it also does a lot of the stuff that you've become accustomed to from Siri and Google Now.
Commands.
Yeah, so you can say something like, you can leave a reminder that has geofencing on it. So I can say, Cortana, hey Cortana, hey Cortana, when I leave work tonight, remind me not to forget the stuff for Norm. Really likes to call you Norma.
Remind you not to forget stuff for Norma when you leave work.
Okay, it's not perfect, but that's probably enough for me to... Yes, that's right.
It's kind of smart and has information about you.
I'll remind you.
Obviously. What's interesting is it stores all that information about you in what Microsoft calls Cortana's notebook.
This is the thing I like. When they explain these features, they always have a little story to tell. And on this one, they said, we brought in a bunch of personal assistants from high-powered Hollywood executives and tech executives, and we found out all the stuff that they did in common. Now, that's great. But the upshot is, Cortana, if you look at the notebook, you know everything that she knows about you. And if she has something wrong, you can correct it, which is kind of hard to do with Google Now and Siri in some cases. So, for example, these are the places I like to eat and drink. I like casual food. I like kid-friendly food. It's perfect. I like to go out occasionally, and I like...
What's your cuisine preference?
Cuisine preference is Japanese.
Oh, there you
I never get to eat sushi anymore. So yeah, you can do that for tons of topics. You can give her preferences, and I'm calling her because I feel like she's a person already. You can give her rules about when she gives traffic updates, whether it seems like you can be granular about whether you drive to work on the train and then take cabs to appointments, all that kind of stuff. You can tell her the kind of movies you're interested in and what theaters you like to go to. There's tons of choices. You can get weather for places that you maybe don't normally go, and you can specify the units, so you're not stuck with Celsius like on other stuff.
And there are connected accounts. You can connect to. I don't know if you want to click it for your.
Yeah, So the connected accounts, it was weird. I expected to see my Gmail accounts set up here from my mail and calendar app, and they didn't pop up yet. It's possible that something's not right on the server side of this yet, but I didn't. I expected to see more of my accounts showing up. It seems to still be looking in my mail though, so maybe you don't have to do that. And you can specify things like what your home address is, your favorite places. So if you always go to your kid's daycare on the way to school, on the way to work, then you can put that in and it'll give you the travel time for that, so you make sure you leave on time to get to work. which is pretty clever.
How it parses, I mean, it seems like it does a good job at parsing language and reading your dictation. But if you ask a question, for example, like, when is my anniversary versus what is my anniversary? The common parlance, people just say, what is my anniversary? And would that work for Cortana?
I don't know. Let's find out. Hey, Cortana, what's my anniversary? Nope.
Yeah.
Hey, Cortana, when is my anniversary?
I'm not finding anything called anniversary.
So at least, though, at that point, it knows that you're supposed to have some sort of data point there.
Right. Hey, Cortana, who am I married to? Nope. There we go. So, there's still a way to go. It seems like the recognition speed is pretty good. I feel like this is a thing that I'm going to have to really use for a couple of months before I have a pretty good idea of whether it's as good as, say, Google Now, or if it's closer to Siri and on the less useful side. But the voice dictation is as good as Google's, it seems like, on a first pass.
Yeah,
so.
And it taps into, of course, Microsoft's Bing service. Yeah. And they have relationships with Yelp and other services.
So one thing that's interesting is it did let me, I can go into settings and it let me configure it so that it only responds to me. I read 8 sentences and it trained based on that. So theoretically, you should be able to say the magic word.
Hey, Cortana. Hey, Cortana.
Oh, so
that was my best. That was my best Will impression right there.
That was your best Will Smith. Okay. So.
Hey, Cortana. Hey, Cortana. No, one shot.
But like all the other stuff that relies on a keyword to say, hey, start listening, if you put that keyword in the middle of a sentence, which is what I was doing earlier, it's not going to work very well. You have to stop and then, hey, Cortana, what do you think about the weather this afternoon?
The forecast shows sun with a high of 68 and a low of 62.
10% chance of rain at 4 a.m. Woo. Say goodbye to that drought.
All right, so Cortana is a big part of Windows 10, obviously. The UI change with start menu, virtual desktops, windowed modern apps, big change. But they've also got rid of Internet Explorer.
Yeah, I realized we didn't talk about the start screen. It's still there if you're in tablet mode. Yeah, don't use the start screen. That's the takeaway. They did change a couple of things. You can now see the most recently used, and you have the same stuff on the start menu. So it has parity to start menu, which is nice. But you asked about Internet Explorer. There's a new thing. There's an Internet Explorer looking logo at the bottom of the taskbar there, but that's Microsoft Edge.
Microsoft Edge, their new browser, new from the ground up?
I believe so, yeah. It seems like they rewrote the renderer. As far as I know, the verdict is still out as to whether this is a more rules-compliant renderer in the world of WebKit renderers and Chrome and all that stuff.
Does it at least get tested right?
It seems to work when I go to tested. Let's see. I think everything's still square. I think we see it as Windows 10, yeah.
Everything's still
And it's got some... Oh, no, the font's popped in eventually.
Ah, there it goes.
But yeah, all the edges are still square. It looks a little bit better. And I think video works a little bit better.
All right. So Edge, features. There's features and performance, two things. Let's talk about some of the features that Microsoft really wanted to highlight.
This is a neat one. Annotation is something that some other browsers have had for a while. But like I can highlight stuff on a page, and then I can erase. I can erase my highlighting. I can circle, and I can go, let's find some, oops. Let me move back down here.
And if you were on, a PC with a stylus, then this would be easier. And if OneNote, you can save this, export it as a JPEG.
It'll save as a JPEG, yeah. I was looking for a picture of somebody's face that I could deface. But yeah, you can draw mustaches on people, send it to them. And it will open for anybody who doesn't, whether they have Windows 10 or not, just sends a JPEG or an image. Yep. It has a reading mode now. So if I want to go into a longer article, is it loading? Yeah. One of the things that Internet Explorer has always done that I really like is the load everything at once. I don't think it's going to work on reading mode with us. Oh, there it goes. So it'll give you a no ads, no frame, just text version of the thing. It seems like that. If you look at the rendering on the scrolling, it's really nice and smooth, especially when you're using the touchpad.
Pinch to zoom?
Pinch to zoom works.
All right. So speed, you ran a couple benchmarks.
Yeah, I ran a couple of JavaScript benchmarks mostly. So we tried Octane and SunSpider. Those are the two predominant JavaScript benchmarks. SunSpider, Edge absolutely decimated Chrome.
Destroyed it.
Like 150 milliseconds to almost 300 milliseconds. Octane, seemingly no difference in performance.
And that's also a Google benchmark.
It is a Google benchmark.
Now, Edge is not feature complete yet. There are no extensions
right
now. And if you go into Edge, for example, you can't do some things that you normally would expect from a browser. For example, right-clicking a link.
Yep.
No save as, save target as. It's only those two things.
It's way closer to a tablet browser than a desktop browser is the thing that I realized pretty quickly, which is why I almost immediately stopped using it.
Yeah. You can't drag and drop. You can't do any of that stuff.
I mean, it does. You can make it multiple sizes, which is nice. I feel like it's a good start. I don't think that there's enough there yet for me to switch from Chrome or Safari or whatever browser
They emphasize
I'm using.
speed. Emphasize speed, and for people who are going to run this on like a Surface 3, an Atom-based PC, you're going to want something that's optimized, and also something that's going to be not a power hog or a memory hog.
Right.
And how's it power-wise? And I mean, we can't tell.
I haven't run it enough to have any idea about power. Memory seems to be better than Chrome, which isn't really saying much in 2015.
Chrome is still a huge memory hog.
Chrome is kind of a hog, yes. I mean, of course, if you have 30 tabs open in Edge and one tab open in Chrome, Edge is going to have more memory used. These things are all relative. And if you're talking about a machine with 6 or 8 gigs of RAM, then it kind of doesn't matter.
Obviously, you and I play games.
Yeah.
Steam works.
Steam works. I haven't been able to get the final. So Microsoft turned off insider access for new computers when they announced that the build that's on this machine is the final build. So I haven't been able to play like big time desktop games. If past Windows releases are any example, there will be a period of time while the drivers ramp up. My guess would be that that'll be a lot shorter since this uses a very similar driver model to Windows 8. And if you'll switch away for just a sec, thanks. Since this uses a similar driver model for Windows 8 and it's been in testing for 9 months, I feel like the ramp will probably be a lot shorter than it has been on previous versions of Windows. But don't expect to get the same frame rate in a game like Arkham Knight on Windows 10 that you did on Windows 8 up front.
And then obviously Microsoft wants to push Xbox.
Yeah. So I tested this out last night. I was really pleasantly surprised by how well this works. If you launch, I think it's called the Xbox app, not to be confused with the Xbox One Smart Glass app. But you see Steam works, and let's see, what do I have installed here? Installed. Oh, Kerbal's almost done. We'll play some Kerbal in a minute. This is basically their front end for Xbox, and you can, if there's an Xbox on your network, which we don't have here, you can fire it up. Oh wait, can I connect to it over the internet? That's bananas.
Did you just power your Xbox One on
My
your
Xbox
home?
One is at my house.
And you can stream if you're on the same network from your Xbox.
I wonder if it's going to let me stream from here.
To your PC.
Okay, well, it's doing that. Let's. We can't turn on your. No, make sure it's on the same network. Okay, that would be too good. Basically, what happens is you turn the Xbox on. You can then you then see the normal Xbox One display in this app. Mm-hmm. Like it takes over, and you plug in an Xbox One, or I think even an Xbox 360 controller, and can use that to control the Xbox remotely. Now, I've tested a bunch of video game streaming stuff for in-house. Here, I'll show you what else, the other stuff that's in here. This lets you see the games that are local on your machine. You can see your messages from the Xbox program.
And it works over wireless?
Yeah, so this laptop is a 802.11 AC machine. It was connecting at like 700 megabits a second with the router that I have at home. And I was able to play games that required fast twitch action, like fighting games and Super Meat Boy and stuff like that, without any real problems at all. There was an occasional little bit of like MPEG H.264 compression artifacting, the blocks. But the latency was really good, and it seemed to adjust based on the current network status, even over wireless. I think over wired, it would be indistinguishable.
Right.
The one thing to note is that whatever is showing on your screen here is also showing on the TV that's hooked up to the Xbox. So if you think you're going to be clever and be able to do things like have somebody in one room watching TV through the Xbox or HBO Go or Plex or something like that, and then you play a game in the other room, that's not going to work.
It hijacks the Xbox.
Yeah, it hijacks the Xbox.
It's got to switch inputs and plug something else into the TV.
It's funny because actually this feature punishes anybody who has their cable box running through the Xbox. Because it means that all of a sudden you can't watch TV and play Xbox at the same time, which I think is probably a mistake on Microsoft's part, although I don't know how the hardware would handle that.
Will it work the other way?
You cannot stream from the Windows 10 PC to the Xbox as of yet.
As of yet.
Yeah. They have not made any statements that that was a thing that was coming.
There is mouse and keyboard support.
There is mouse and keyboard support.
And that's basically it. That's Windows 10. It's honestly, not that big of a difference. It feels like this is like Windows 8.2.
This is what Windows 8 should have been. Like if they hadn't whiffed Windows 8 initially, this is what if they wanted to make an OS that was good for tablet users and desktop users, it should have been more like this than what they actually shipped. I feel like with this OS, I suddenly feel the promise of the touchscreen laptops in a way that I was always kind of disappointed by Windows 8. You know?
Yeah, and I love having a touchscreen on a laptop.
Yeah, like
swiping in from the left and right.
It becomes really
just
natural.
Scrolling, pinch and zoom, it complements that keyboard and mouse use really well.
And the thing I love is this one, where you flip it over. So you're sitting in bed, you're sitting on the couch or something like that. It's like there's a laptop stand built in. It flips over automatically when it's not plugged into video capture. For what it's worth.
And will there be a Windows 11?
They said no. They're saying that this is the last version of Windows.
This is it.
So there's a couple of things that we need to talk about in terms of features and housekeeping for Windows 10.
It all sounds good so far.
Yeah, they're going to update this quarterly is the unofficial word on the street, at least, maybe more frequently. The core apps like Mail and Calendar and that stuff are all updated through the store, similar to Android.
Different cadence of updates.
Right, so they'll come more frequently as needed. But yeah, expect to see 4 big releases for things like support for new hardware,
any new features,
new
UI
features they want to roll out, new OS level features. I would assume enhancements to Cortana will come in those rather than in more frequent updates. Now, there's a catch.
Whether you like it or not.
You can't turn off auto updating on the consumer versions of Windows.
Wow.
So I think that's great for people like our parents, right? Like my mom has literally never pressed update on any of the computers she's ever had. It's caused her a lot of problems. I love the idea that her machines will just automatically reboot once a week or once a month when the security patches come out. It also means that if Microsoft messes up and releases something bad, whether it makes machines crash or unstable or whatever, there's no way for you to opt out of it if you realize it before it's too late.
You can defer an update.
You can defer, but it seems like that is only something you have to keep pressing the button. It's going to give you more and more harassment until you actually say, yes, please install this.
Yeah.
It also makes that a massive target for nefarious evildoers. Because imagine, Microsoft has a really good record with this. As far as is known, they've never released a malware, anything malware-ish through Windows Update. This makes it a much bigger target, especially if they actually get all 1.5 billion Windows users on Windows 10 as quickly as they're hoping by making it free. So I'm not super keen on that. The precision trackpad thing for Windows, for laptop owners, it seems like that's tied to the firmware of the trackpad in a lot of cases, and the manufacturers aren't necessarily making those firmwares available. The machines that I've used that have the precision trackpad are wonderful. The machines that I've used with the normal trackpad drivers have all the same normal problems that Windows trackpads have, to the point that I have a mouse plugged in here just in case. So, they're making steps in the right direction. It seems I'd hoped that the precision trackpad stuff would be part of their signature series Windows laptop program, which is kind of equivalent to like the old Android devices that were sold by Google that were stock Android devices. No malware, no crapware, but they do let them install bad drivers if the manufacturers want. So.
The upshot is, if you're a Windows 8 or a Windows 7 user and you're comfortable with the auto updates and comfortable with the current driver state, there's no real big fear of upgrading to Windows 10 from a usability standpoint.
Here's personally, Microsoft's track record with not messing up Windows Update has been really, really good. They're going to continue the Insider program. It's now a 3-tier release, so they have a fast ring, which is basically people who get updated as soon as a new build is ready. Then a couple of weeks after that, they'll push the build out to the slow ring, which is still before its mainline release, but to people who are a little bit more conservative.
Yep.
And then it's made public for everyone on Windows Update. So it's not like these are untested updates going out. These will go through 2 different levels. They're tracking the hardware in the systems in the Insider program, so they can look at the hardware on your machine, the hardware on the Insider's machines, and say, okay, we've seen this configuration before. This is going to be fine. We'll push that out.
And the Cortana stuff, it's not the dog helper.
You have to opt into it too.
You have to opt into it. You can still use search, local search to open applications without doing Cortana search.
And to search your local hard drive as well.
And to search your local hard drive. Your stuff is always going to be on top of the web search stuff.
That's kind of the case. The difference is when you're searching for files, you have to, like, if you want to look for, what do I want to look for? Pictures?
JPEG.
Yeah, JPEG. Asterisk.jpg. I don't think I have any media on this machine at all. You have to go to My Stuff down in the bottom left.
Or search documents.
Or search documents, yeah.
Yep.
So, like, that stuff's, oops, and then I tapped out of it, so who knows where that went.
And then Cortana will also be on mobile.
Yeah, so Cortana is going to be on, well, it's on Windows Phone, obviously. One of the things we kind of alluded to, finally their promise that Metro modern apps will run on desktop and phones the same way seems to be true. So it seems like the programs that you're writing for any of these platforms will work on any of the other platforms, which is good. Cortana is obviously native on the Windows Phone platform. There's going to be Cortana apps for iOS and Android in the not-too-distant future.
Yep, there's a beta right now on Android.
It remains to be seen. Have you used the Android beta at all?
You get invite only.
Okay. It remains to be seen how useful that stuff is going to be. I know like Google Now on iOS is probably the closest analog. It's still very useful if you don't mind clicking into it, but it isn't omnipresent the way Google Now is on, say, Android. So I would expect something similar with Cortana. And again, the price is right. It's free.
It's free.
So if you have a legal version of Windows 8 or Windows 7, you can just upgrade. If you don't like it, you can roll back. I would strongly recommend that you back up before you do any kind of OS upgrade on any system ever.
Yep.
And that's pretty much all there is to it. It boots much faster using UEFI than Windows 8 did. Like the performance stuff that came with Windows 8, which was good, is all here. And then they fixed the UI stuff so that it makes sense for desktop users and isn't just a nice thing for tablet users. Like I think this is the best version of Windows since Windows 7 from what I've seen so far. So I'm a fan. Yeah.
Arrow's back.
Oh yeah, and you can turn Arrow back on.
Arrow is back.
How do you do that? Do you know? We just found that out the other day. Themes, start, lock screen, theme settings. I don't know how to turn it on. But yeah, it's back. And it syncs all this stuff through the cloud. We didn't even talk about OneDrive and all that stuff. This is a really nice modern OS from Microsoft. I was really pleased with it. So that'll do it for today. Windows 10, it's out right now. You maybe can go get it, maybe not. If you can't, don't freak out. It'll be okay. It'll come eventually.
We'll be back next time.
See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.